Hello, vinyl community. I'm Gary, and this is Physical Format Rock and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it is time for another contest video. But this is a special contest video because this is for my close and personal friend, Alex, over at Beer and Vinyl. Now, it's Beer and Vinyl, right? So, of course, we are going to have some beer in this video. You're saying, well, don't you have beer in pretty much all your videos? Yes, but this is one of my favorites, okay? The Edmund Fitzgerald, one of my favorite porters by Great Lakes. Doing a video for Alex at Beer and Vinyl and not having beer in the video, that would be like an Irishman going into O'Malley's pub and not saying, oh, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, at least 5 times that evening, right? Can't do it. It would be wrong. It would be wrong. Ah, that's good. Cheers to you, Alex. Pretty much most people know Alex by this point. Great guy. He is celebrating being in the vinyl community for 1 year, which is crazy. I feel like he's been in here longer than that. But anyway, he's doing a really cool contest that I like. And, you know, I love his channel name. I wish I would have thought of that. But I didn't. So we're not going to worry about that. But when it comes to Alex, he is just such a great guy. Everybody should be subscribed to him. You know, how about I tell a little quick story about Alex? So I thought since we're doing a video for Alex over at Beer and Vinyl, I'd tell a kind of funny Alex story. So when him and I went to that concert to see Beat there a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, Alex bought this really expensive poster. I won't tell you how much he spent on it because I don't want you guys making fun of him. But anyway, he bought this poster, not an autograph, just a regular poster, but it was pretty expensive. So he wanted to frame it or whatever. Well, you know, naturally, we'd had a couple beers by that point, so got to head to the bathroom. I'm over there washing my hands, and our buddy Alex is over at the urinal, and evidently he had a beer in one hand, and then he had his poster, like kind of holding it in his armpit kind of thing. And, yeah, there's an Amish coming up. But anyway, so he's over there doing what you do at a urinal, and he is as he's taking care of business there, he accidentally drops the poster into the urinal. Now, as you can guess, that would be quite the problem doing that. So he drops it in there, and he's like, oh man, he can't stop what he's doing, right? So it falls into the urinal, and he continues doing his business in there. And then he proceeds to grab the end of it, of the poster, and he takes it out, and he's like, man, I paid a lot for this poster. I can't just get rid of it. And I'm like, dude, you just pissed all over it. And he's like, yeah, but you know, maybe I can salvage it. So he's got it over there under the blow dryer and everything, trying to dry it. And, you know, he ended up taking it home with him. So, you know, God love him. But if you ever see that poster in the background, one of his videos now, you'll kind of know that I bet that sucker smells. Welcome back. So, the way I approached this, what his contest was, is Alex said, pick your favorite year in music. And he kind of alluded that there's a couple different ways you could approach this if you wanted to. And what I did is, instead of picking like one particular year and just talking about all the albums that were released in that year, like, you know, say 1971, right? There's so many amazing albums that came out in that year, or 1973, which, you know, one of those years might be my favorite year for the albums that came out. But what I did is I decided to pick a year in my life that I think was one of my greatest years as far as listening to music and what I was listening to, the music that was coming out at that time. And then also like, you know, albums that, or groups that I started to get into that were maybe a little bit older, because sometimes it takes a little while for that. The year I'm picking is 1980. Okay, so I was, you know, still pretty young at that time, obviously a younger teenager, but I was also starting to broaden my horizons a little bit. It wasn't just Kiss and Aerosmith that I was listening to. It was a little bit more. So I'm not going to show any of the older albums maybe that I got into or whatever. I'm just going to pick albums that came out during that time period that I was actually listening to. And I tried to pick albums that came out that I could have actually been listening to them a lot in 1980. So like, I don't want to pick something that came out in December of 1980. You follow my drift? All right, so here we go. Start off. This one made a big impact on me that year. British Steel by Judas Priest. I remember I had this, I actually originally had it on 8-track. And I just remember hearing this, the way it sounded. I knew nothing of Judas Priest at that time. I really didn't. I loved the album cover. I'd heard some people talk about it. I wasn't sure if it was metal, if it was punk, what it was going to be. Turns out it was metal. And I got it, and then all my friends got turned on to it. Listened to this all the time. So, Judas Priest, British Steel. Next up, so now we're kind of changing a little bit. Here's an album that made a big impact on me. The Pretenders, their debut album. Fell in love with this band. I was actually into the Pretenders and you know, Chrissie Hynde and everybody before I got into Joan Jett. I know a lot of people think of me as a big Joan Jett fan, and I am. But the Pretenders, you know, the whole band. This is such a fantastic album, and you know, those first couple albums really made a big impact on me, and I listened to them a lot at that time. Next up, Diva, Freedom of Choice. I got this in that year. I think it came out in the middle of the year or May or something. I'm not sure. Listened to this a lot. Really fell in love with this album. Very quirky, something different. But yet there were songs in there. I don't like music that's just different to be different and there's not an actual song in there, you know. These guys are great songwriters, and I listened to this a lot, and it wasn't just joke music to me. I loved it. Great songs. This is a fantastic album, Freedom of Choice by Devo. Next, now, I'm showing two albums by this particular band, and I'll tell you why. So, Autoamerican by Blondie. This album came out, but it came out later in 1980. So I think really in 1980, I was probably listening to Blondie, Eat to the Beat, a lot more than I did that. I also like this album a lot more than I still love this album, and I bought it after it came out, and listened to this quite a bit too. But this had a big impact on me. Right around this time, Blondie was just a real big band for me. Clem Burke's one of my favorite drummers, and this is just packed full of great songs. This album holds up today very, very well. And this album is super eclectic, Autoamerican. So, Eat to the Beat, Autoamerican by Blondie. Next up, now this one, I'll tell you what. So, you guys are so used to this album. You've heard it a million times, all the stuff on it. But what I want you to picture is being a young teenager and hearing this album, not knowing any song on it. AC/DC, Back in Black. To go back and to be able to listen to this thing again and learn these songs and the way it sounded with Mutt Lange's production. Just amazing. This really was a big kick in the ass in 1980. I mean, I just love this album right around that time. Now, yeah, I hardly ever play it now because so many of these songs have been driven into the dirt. But just picture that. Picture listening to Hell's Bells, not knowing the song. The first thing you hear are those bells. And then that guitar comes in. That gives you chills, man. I mean, it really did. This was huge. AC/DC, Back in Black. Another album really, really big for me in 1980. And I really can't overstate how much I listened to this over the next few years and how it still remains one of my favorite albums. And it just catapulted this band even bigger to me than they already were. And that is Women and Children First by Van Halen. Oh my gosh. I remember hearing this and I just loved it. You know, the oddball songs on here I like, but the heavy rockers on here, man, they just kick ass. Van Halen was just on top of the world right around this time. I mean, they were just one of the best hard rock bands. I just remember hearing this album and between this and then the first two albums, I'm like, wow, these guys are just knocking some of these other bands that I had up here. All of a sudden, Van Halen just, man, they just took that spot. Look at that album cover, too. That's great. I love this picture on the back, too. These guys were so great at this time period. Women and Children First. Wow. If you don't own this album, you should buy it. I love it. And then my final album that I'm going to show, and I could show some more, but I'm trying to show ones that made a big impact, and this one definitely made an impact. They were one of my top bands right there with Van Halen around this time period, and that was Rush. Rush, Permanent Waves, kind of ended a bit of an era for me when it came to Rush, and I remember just playing the shit out of this record. Loved it so much. It was, you know, they had like really changed their sound from where they were just a few years ago to get to this point, but man, they were just still rocking here, and they still had the longer songs on here, you know, like Natural Science, Jacob's Ladder, a couple of great prog rock hard songs on here, and then they had the shorter songs, you know, songs that became the hits eventually off of this, like Spirit of the Radio, right, Free Will. Just a great album. Just, you know, Rush was, you know, at the top of their game here. I mean, you know, between this and Women and Children First, wow. I mean, just amazing music that was coming out around this time period. I mean, I could have put Panorama by the Cars. I listened to that quite a lot around that time. There's other ones, Unmasked by Kiss, but those were like albums coming out that year that I listened to a lot that really made a big impact on me. 1980, an amazing year for music in my life. So that's my pick for you, Alex. Please make sure you go check out the amazing Alex over at Beer and Vinyl. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. He's just amazing. So there you go, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching all this nonsense. I appreciate it. I'm Gary. This is Physical Format Rock and Roll. Till the next time, my friends, I will see you down the road. And how could I forget this one? The Ramones, End of the Century. See him standing over there. You're going to try to catch me? You're going to try to shoot me? I'm going to take off. There he goes.